Over a number of weeks, myself and my classmates took part in a digital media workshop at the Limerick School of Art and Design for our Professional Masters of Education course with Michael Fortune. I found the experience to be very relaxed and enjoyable, and I got to learn a lot of new skills in an area that my background would be in. So I would have had experience before in digital media, particularly photography and video. But it has been a while since I worked creatively through digital media. Before taking part in this PME, I did a month internship in documentary production with a TV production company. For me, it was nice to get back to a more artistic and looser style, and not worry about the creative constraints of commercial media. We began with a documentary film project where the brief required us to look at the Irish home as the subject matter. I was grouped with Brendan, Breed and Crea, and we quickly became excited by the subject matter and started brainstorming some ideas. Initially, we wanted to conduct some interviews with locals around Limerick, ask them questions about their home and things that they find uniquely Irish. This didn't go as planned, however, because after a few uncooperative subjects, we got a little disheartened. This is actually something that I found difficult in the past. The whole area of interviewing and having strangers participate in your work and the correct way to engage them. But we went back to the drawing board and came up with a new plan, which was to interview my dad, who was in Mayo at the time, which was a distance away. So we decided to screencast a Skype call with him, asking him the questions that we intended. We coupled this with some footage found online representing old Ireland and new Ireland in terms of the home, and particularly around building homes. One part of the video that was very successful was the section where we cut together some audio from Home of the Year, where the judges are admiring this pretty little cottage with some footage of an old abandoned house. The result was quite humorous and unexpected. So this is definitely something I'd actually like to make some more similar pieces, perhaps with the group again. I think it would be a nice project to continue.
Very respectful.
I just love this kitchen. I love the fact that it's freestanding. There's no top cabinets, which I think works really well. Very respectful again to the space. This, I think, is actually my favourite kitchen in this competition so far. It's so bright and functional.
The project after this was to create a stop motion animation with the title and music. The brief was about Irish folklore, and I was grouped with Brendan again. And he came up with the idea for The Changeling, which is a superstitious story from old Irish folklore, which is about a child that is switched by the fairies and replaced by something more sinister. We decided the best way to illustrate this was to use a combination of simple domestic food items and kitchen items and natural materials found in the garden. We were specifically tasked to use 3D objects, whereas the others in the group would have done more traditional drawing, animation, that type of thing. So we used an egg to symbolise fertility and new life, and it was immersed in milk, which would symbolise gestation and nurture, something that nurtures. The ivy then that comes later in the clip kind of shows something or represents something poisonous and sinister. The accompanying music then laid over the footage really aided in creating a dark atmosphere It had kind of tribal pagan sounds which really tied in with the theme. So this piece was quite successful in the end, and we were both very happy with how it came out. The final project then was map making, and for this we all had to create a map of a place that was important to us, which we then presented in front of everyone. My map was of a housing estate in the place where I grew up. Basically, I grew up there from when I was born until about the age of 11, until I moved somewhere close by to a bigger house. But this housing estate was kind of, I suppose, my whole world at this point. So I created a map of this estate, and I told the class the stories of little places and things that happened around this area as I showed them the map. After this, we grouped together and we created a larger map joining all of our individual maps together. This was a really, really nice, enjoyable project. It was the first time we all kind of worked in one large group on something, and it was just a very enjoyable day. We got a lot of work done, but at the same time, we got to tell each other stories. After this, we used Google Maps and other websites such as osi.ie, which kind of shows maps historically from an area, from all over Ireland over a period of time. So you can go back as far as the early 1900s, for example. So we used Google Maps to create interactive maps of these places that we had talked about earlier, and the stories that went along with them. I found this again very enjoyable and a really unique way to tell stories. Something that I've never really thought about or heard about before. So for me, it's definitely something I'd like to explore in the future. I think that this would be an ideal project to start perhaps in a school where the students wouldn't know each other as well. It could be a beginning of a term. It's a great way to kind of introduce people and get them talking about themselves. So on reflection, I think this digital media workshop was very engaging, and going on from here, it makes me kind of going on from here when I'm developing my schemes in the future, particularly, for example, my research project, I will definitely incorporate a lot of what I've learned here, and I use this to inspire perhaps some projects and subjects for my upcoming school practice.